Hi guys, it's Lindsay. Welcome back to The Wandering Reader. Today I'm going to be doing part 2 of my June book haul. So I will link part 1 up here if you haven't seen that already. Go and check that out. In part 2 I'm going to be talking about all of the books that I picked up in various different charity shops. So you guys know how I love a good charity bookshop. So I'm going to be talking about all of those in this part today. The first books I've got to show you are a trilogy, and I picked up the whole trilogy in one particular charity shop, which I was so excited about. And that is this trilogy here. So I don't know whether I know the name of it. I don't know, but it's by Maggie Stiefvater, and the 3 books in the trilogy are Shiver, Linger and Forever. I think there's a 4th one, but I'm not totally sure about that. If you know the answer to that, whether there is a 4th one, please leave me a comment down below. But these were £1 each, and they were all together. Yeah, and I was just so excited to see them all together. I think they're a series about werewolves, sort of a YA series about werewolves. I'm quite interested to see whether I like this, because Maggie Stiefvater wrote the Raven cycle, and I've read the first one, The Raven Boys, and I wasn't particularly enamoured by it. I think I gave it something like 3 stars, and I haven't bought the second book. I haven't really been interested in picking up the second book. So I saw her other trilogy in pretty good condition. They look basically new. They've got a little bit of yellowing, I think probably where they've sat on a shelf for a while, but no cracking in the spines. Yeah, so that's the first 3 that I picked up. Then I was most excited to see Dreams of Gods and Monsters by Laini Taylor. I picked up the first 2 in the Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy by her, I think probably about 4 months ago now. And I've been looking out for the 3rd one in this particular style of cover, and I saw it and I was like, give that to me. So now I can read the whole trilogy, and I've heard so many good things about this trilogy, so I might start it this summer, so at least read the first one this summer. But yeah, I'm so glad to have the 3rd one now. Again, another one that I was so excited to see was Longbourn by Jo Baker. This is a retelling of Pride and Prejudice from the point of view of the servants. Now, I read Pride and Prejudice, I would say, a good 10 years ago now, so I really want to reread that at some point. So I might reread it this year, we'll see. There's a lot of things I've got to get through this year. But I heard Kirsty from Melbourne on My Mind talking about this and absolutely raving about it. And that was only 2 or 3 weeks ago now, so when I saw it I was like, wow, have to grab that. And I'll have a read of that once I've reread Pride and Prejudice, I think. But yeah, really glad to have a copy of that in my possession. I've got a copy here of Breakfast at Tiffany's by Truman Capote. I've heard a few people on BookTube talk about Truman Capote, but more about his novel, I think it's called In Cold Blood, which is about a serial killer, I think. But not much about this one, but I couldn't resist this really sweet penguin edition of Breakfast at Tiffany's. I've never seen the film, but obviously the story is really famous, and the film's got Audrey Hepburn in it, so I just thought, wow, you know, that'd be a lovely one to have as a classic to pick up. It doesn't look that long, it's about 150 pages, which, yeah, so that should be quite quick to get through as well. I just thought it was a really cute little edition to have on my shelf. I finally picked up a copy of The Maze Runner by James Dashner, which matches the set on my shelf. Is it behind me? Yeah, it's here. So I had a random other copy of The Maze Runner, which I actually donated last week for my book swap, as part of the book swap-a-thon to a charity shop, because I'd picked up a copy in this edition the week before. So I'm really excited that they all match now. I've only read The Maze Runner, I haven't read the other 2, and there's another book, isn't there, called, what's it called? Is it the Kill Order, I want to say. I don't have a copy of that, but yeah, this was right. This is a 3-star read. My husband's read all of them. I don't know when I'll get around to reading the other 2, but it was just irritating me that this copy didn't match the other 2. So there we go. Next I've got a copy of 3 Dark Crowns by Kendar Blake, can't speak. This is a YA fantasy book that came out, I believe, last year, I want to say. Let's just have a little look. Yeah, 2016. This is about 3 sisters, I think they're triplets, and when they come of a particular age they have to fight to get the crown, and they've all, I believe, got different powers to fight, and it's just about them kind of fighting for the crown. So you've got Mirabella, who's a fierce elemental and can spark hungry flames with the click of a finger. You've got Catherine, a poisoner, who is known to be resistant to the deadliest of snake bites. And Arsinoe, a naturalist who is rumoured to have the ability to bloom the reddest of roses. Yeah, and it says on the back whose side are you on. Apparently there are 3 different editions of this. So I've got, I don't know what edition I've got. It says 3 covers 1 book, choose your queen. So apparently I've got the Red Queen one, but I don't know what that means. Is this for Arsinoe? Maybe because of the red roses on here. But yeah, I've heard Reagan from Prue's project say good things about this, and I know how much of a big fantasy reader she is. So yeah, there's that one. Next up, I picked up another Linwood Barclay book, and this is called Far From True. I love a bit of Linwood Barclay, and I've been eyeing this up in Sainsbury's, and I was very close to getting it one day, but then saw it in a charity shop for I think about 50p, so you know, it probably would have been about £4 in Sainsbury's, so that's a bargain. I've read practically all of his books. I think I've got one downstairs which is part of a trilogy that I haven't read, and then this one. These are thrillers told from the point of view of somebody close to the victim. So yeah, they're just really light, interesting thrillers, great for the summer, by the pool, and so now I've got his new one. Next up, I've got a book here that I'm probably going to save for October because it's got that kind of feel to it, and that is The Lonely by Andrew Michael Hurley, and this won the Costa Book Awards in 2015. So this says on the back, 2 brothers, one mute, the other his lifelong protector. Year after year their family visits the same sacred shrine on a desolate strip of coastline known as the Lonely, in desperate hope of a cure. In the long hours of waiting, the boys are left alone. They cannot resist the causeway revealed with every turn of the treacherous tide, the old house they glimpse at its end. Many years on, Hanny is a grown man no longer in need of his brother's care, but then the child's body is found, and the Lonely always gives up its secrets in the end. It kind of reminds me of The Woman in Black, because of the whole causeway thing, and sort of like the lonely strip of coastline and things like that. So I think that would be a really good one to read around Halloween time. I'm not a big horror reader, although I don't think you class this as horror. But yeah, so I got that one for October. Next up, I've got a copy of Pigeon English by Stephen Kelman. And it says it's shortlisted for the Man Booker Prize in 2011. I saw this, it's in a really lovely edition with these French flaps, and look at the end papers, beautiful. And the reason I picked this up is because this was a book that's on the GCSE specifications. It's one that I could study with my students if I want to. So it kind of intrigued me from that point of view, and because look, it's just so beautiful, and it looks brand new to me, like nobody's read it. So this is about newly arrived from Ghana with his mother and older sister, 11-year-old Harrison Opoku lives on the 9th floor of a block of flats on an inner city housing estate. The second best runner in the whole of Year 7, Harry races through his new life in his personalised trainers, the Adidas stripes drawn on with marker pen, blissfully unaware of the very real threat all around him. With equal fascination for the local gang, the Dell Farm crew, and for the pigeon who visits his balcony, Harry absorbs the many strange elements of life in England, watching, listening, and learning the tricks of urban survival. But when a boy is knifed to death on a high street and the police appeal for witnesses draws only silence, Harry decides to start a murder investigation of his own. In doing so, he unwittingly endangers the fragile web his mother has spun around her family to try to keep them safe. A story of innocence and experience, hope and harsh reality, Pigeon English is a spellbinding portrayal of a boy balancing on the edge of manhood and the forces around him that try to shape the way he falls. I thought that sounded like a really interesting story. You know, the thing about knife crime and gangs in London and other cities in the UK is still so relevant today. Yeah, so that'll be a good one to pick up at some point, and not too long either. Not too long. Next up, I've got a copy of Talon by Julie Kagawa. This is a story that I think is about dragons. So it says on the back, "To the outside world, Ember Hill is an ordinary girl, but Ember has a deadly secret, a dragon hiding in human form. She is destined to fight the shadowy Order of St. George, a powerful society of dragon slayers. St. George soldier Garrett is determined to kill Ember and her kind, until her bravery makes him question all he's been taught about dragons. Now a war is coming and Garrett and Ember must choose their sides, fight to save their bond or fulfil their fate and destroy one another." And this is part of a long series. I think there are 5 books in this series. I mainly picked this up because I thought my husband would be interested in reading it. He really likes fantasy and stuff to do with dragons. He read this last week and he said it was a bit too teenage romance for him, which I was quite surprised by. The cover doesn't really say that at all, but you know, they say you shouldn't judge a book by its cover, you know. So I'll give that a go at some point. It's probably not a top priority for me at the moment, but it's there when I'm in the mood. Another YA fantasy book that I was so pleased to see was The Queen of the Tearlin by Erica Johansson. So this is part, I think, of a trilogy, and the last book came out at the beginning of this year or the end of last year, something like that. And again, I've heard Reagan from Preach Project say good things about this, as well as some other booktubers that I follow. This is, so it says it was on her 19th birthday that the soldiers came for Kelsey Glynn. They came to escort her back to the place of her birth and to ensure she survives long enough to take possession of what is rightfully hers. But like many 19-year-olds, Kelsey is unruly, has high principles and believes she knows better than her elders. Unlike most 19-year-olds, she's about to inherit a kingdom that is on its knees, corrupt, debauched and very dangerous. Kelsey will either become the most fearsome ruler the kingdom has ever known, or will be dead within the week. So again, I thought my husband would quite like that as well, and again, he's read this and he thought this was very good. So yeah, I'm looking forward to picking that up at some point. I've got 2 books left. The first one is The Sellout by Paul Beattie. This won the Man Booker Prize last year, and I saw a copy of it in pretty much pristine condition. It doesn't look like it's been read, so I had to get that. And like I said, this won the Man Booker Prize last year, and the little description says, a biting satire about a young man's isolated upbringing and the race trial that sends him to the Supreme Court. The Sellout showcases a comic genius at the top of his game. Yeah, so I'll read that at some point. And finally, the last book that I have to show you is Michelle Faber's The Crimson Petal and the White. This is a chunker, and it's a bit of a beat up copy as well, but yeah, this is a sort of book where I'm not absolutely sure whether I'll like it, so it's better than me getting it for a cheap price, so it doesn't really matter if it's beat up. This is a chunker. This is over 800 pages, and we're talking about quite small text as well. I picked this up because I'd heard Jen from Jen Campbell talk about it on her channel. She loves Michelle Faber, and a couple of other people as well I've heard say that this is very good. So it says on the back, Sugar, an alluring 19-year-old prostitute in the brothel of the peculiar Mrs. Castaway, yearns for a better life. And when she is visited by William Rackham, the somewhat reluctant heir to Rackham Perfumeries, she begins an ascent through the strata of 1870s London society that offers us intimacy with a host of lovable, maddening and superbly realised characters. Gripping from the first page, this hugely acclaimed novel is an intoxicating and deeply satisfying read. Not only a wonderful story, but the creation of an entire extraordinary world. So that sounds pretty good. Not sure when I'll get around to that, because like I said, it's a chunker and it's going to require quite a lot of dedication, but it's there when I want to pick it up. So there you go guys, that was part 2 of my June book haul. It was big, the book haul in June. I'm going to have to be a little bit more careful in July. I kind of feel like all the books that I got rid of in that massive unhaul, I've now kind of accumulated in some sort of way again, and I have no idea how I'm going to fit them on my shelves. It's not a particularly bad problem to have, and like I've said in other videos, I don't particularly care that my TBR is massive. It's great to have a choice. So yeah, there we go. So again, if you've read any of these books, please leave me a comment down below. I'd love to have a chat with you about them. What did you think of them? Which one should I pick up first? Thanks very much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.